I just wanted to take my wife and our newborn out for a simple walk. That's it. But within minutes, a woman with a visor and a poodle called 911 on us, a cop handed me a bogus ticket, and the president of our HOA started a campaign to push my family out of the neighborhood. What began as a sunny afternoon turned into the ugliest fight of my life, a war against a system built to crush us. Our son was only a month old. Those first weeks felt like living in a dream, exhausted, yes, but full of tiny miracles. Every little yawn, every soft cry, it felt like magic. That Saturday was perfect. Blue sky, a light breeze, kids riding bikes, lawns trimmed so neatly they looked fake. My wife and I bundled up our son, tucked him into the stroller we'd researched for weeks, and finally stepped out for our first real walk. I pushed with one hand, kept the other on her back, feeling proud, a little fragile, but happy. And then we saw her. She came striding toward us in a spotless white tennis skirt, pastel polo, and that smug visor that probably cost more than my shoes. A tiny poodle snapped at the leash in front of her, barking like it had something to prove. We did. The normal thing shifted to the far right side of the sidewalk, gave her a good 5 feet to pass. But she didn't pass. She stopped. The dog yapped. She scowled, and her eyes cut straight through us. My wife, ever polite, smiled and said, "Good afternoon." The woman sneered at our stroller, then at us. And she said it. "What is this, the ghetto parade float?" The words were like a slap. I froze. My wife's smile collapsed into disbelief. I managed, "Excuse me," but the woman doubled down. "This is a private residential community. We pay HOA fees to keep it safe. You people don't get to block our sidewalks. Move that contraption onto the grass." There was more than enough room to walk by, but she wanted us off the pavement, off the path, off her turf. My wife's voice shook but turned sharp. "We live here, 2 blocks away. This is our sidewalk too." The woman's eyes narrowed. "I doubt that. I'm on the HOA board. I know everyone here. Never seen you before." Then she pulled out her phone. My stomach dropped. We all know what comes next. Yes, 911. Suspicious individuals blocking the sidewalk. They're aggressive. I feel threatened. She turned her back slightly, her voice rising into a frantic performance for the dispatcher. That's when I saw the cruiser down the street flip on its lights. He was already there. He didn't come because of her call. He'd been waiting. She smirked when she saw him. "Billy?" she cried suddenly, fragile, suddenly, a damsel in distress. Officer Billy sauntered over, arms crossed. He didn't look at us when he asked, "What's the trouble, ma'am?" She painted her story with broad, ugly strokes, how we cursed at her, how we threatened violence, how we refused to move. None of it true. I held up my phone. "I've got video of what really happened." Billy glanced at it unimpressed. "Sir, put the phone down and calm down." "I'm not the one who needs to calm down," I said, heat rising in my voice. He sighed like I was a child. Then he fed her lines. "So they refused to move and threatened you?" She nodded eagerly. He finally turned to us. "IDs. Now." We hadn't done anything wrong, but refusal would only make it worse. My wife's hands trembled as she dug through the diaper bag. Billy took our IDs, walked back to his car, and left us standing there with her gloating smile. He returned minutes later, tossed our licenses back, and with a smirk pulled out his ticket book. Obstructing a public walkway. Failure to comply with a lawful order. I couldn't believe it. A lawful order. What order? "My order for you to calm down," he said. And he handed me the slip, a piece of paper that turned her lie into official truth. She practically glowed. "Maybe now you'll learn to respect the rules." We walked home under that same bright sky, but it felt poisonous. My wife's silent tears fell as she whispered, "I can't believe this is where we live." Days later, the first letter from the HOA came. Violation notice stroller stored on our porch out of compliance. Remove it in 48 hours or pay $50. If not, fines would double, then a lien on our home. For a stroller. On our own porch. It was ridiculous, but also terrifying. We moved it to the garage, but the next week came another violation. Our trash can was visible from one obscure angle down the street. With each letter, it became clear this wasn't random. This was targeted. Then she struck online. A post on the neighborhood site dripping with passive aggression. I was recently forced off the sidewalk by an aggressive couple with a large stroller. She never used our names, but everyone knew. Comments flooded in, her allies agreeing, calling us trash, saying standards were slipping. I wanted to scream back, but I knew how it would look, the angry black man stereotype playing right into her story. That night I almost broke. I told my wife, maybe we should sell the house, get out before it gets worse. For a moment I wondered if she was right, if we didn't belong here, if we'd made a terrible mistake moving in. I sat on the couch, staring at that ticket on the table, wondering if the fight was even winnable. But then, a crack of light. On that same forum, a young neighbor pushed back. "Hard to picture new parents with a baby being aggressive," he wrote. Another woman added, "This sounds one-sided. It wasn't much, but it was something." And then Ethan, a neighbor we barely knew, approached us at the grocery store. "I saw the whole thing," he whispered. "She was screaming, 'You two were calm.' And the cop, he knew her. They were laughing together." He hesitated, then added, "That officer, he's her son-in-law." The puzzle snapped together. This wasn't just a bad cop. It was a family operation. We scraped together money for a consultation and found a civil rights lawyer, Mr. Carter, an older black attorney, calm but fierce. We laid out everything: ticket violation letters, my video. He leaned back and said, "Classic harassment through process. She's weaponizing the HOA. He's abusing his badge. They think they can grind you down." He drafted a cease and desist, put the HOA board on notice, told us to document every move. He smiled slightly. "Either she'll back off or she'll make a mistake. Either way, you'll win." She didn't back off. She doubled down. Weekly violation letters, our lawn, a hairline crack in the driveway, even a decorative flag my wife had in a flower pot. It was relentless. And worse, Billy's patrol car started crawling past our house at odd hours, headlights off, just watching. Meredith gathered her little crew on lawns across the street, sipping coffee while loudly muttering words like troublemakers and property values. Psychological warfare. But then came the court date for that ticket. I was nervous as hell, stomach twisted into knots. Billy took the stand, first polished and smug, spinning a story about how he bravely diffused a dangerous situation. He never once mentioned his mother-in-law. Our lawyer stood, calm, precise. "Officer, you testified the complainant is a longtime resident. Is that the extent of your relationship with her?" Billy hesitated. "She's respected in the community." "That wasn't my question. Are you related to her?" The silence in the courtroom was electric. He stammered, "She's my wife's mother." The judge's eyebrows shot up. "Your mother-in-law. And you didn't think that was relevant to disclose?" His credibility shattered right there. Then Ethan testified, nervous but steady. He described how Meredith had been the aggressor, how we stood quietly to the side, how Billy and her acted like old friends. His words cut through every lie. Our lawyer finished with a thunderclap. "Your Honor, this is not a traffic case. This is malicious prosecution born of a personal vendetta. We ask for immediate dismissal." The judge didn't blink. Charges dismissed. She glared at Billy. "You're lucky I'm not filing a complaint myself." It was our first victory, small but powerful. And then came the real bombshell. A reporter named Jessica dug deeper. She discovered Meredith wasn't just a bully. She was a real estate developer. Her firm specialized in revitalizing communities, and she had a pattern: target families of color with endless HOA fines, force them out, then buy their homes cheap through shell companies, flip them for profit. Racism wasn't just her sport, it was her business model. Jessica's investigation aired on TV. Footage of Meredith snarling at us, interviews with other families she'd forced out, maps of homes bought by her company. And the kicker: proof that Billy responded to dozens of her bogus 911 calls even when he wasn't the closest officer. He was her personal enforcer. The fallout was nuclear. The police department suspended Billy without pay, launched a criminal investigation. Residents packed the HOA meeting furious. Meredith tried to spin it as a smear campaign, but no one bought it. A motion for no confidence passed almost unanimously. She and her entire board were thrown out on the spot. Her real estate license was suspended. Her partners dissolved the firm and lawsuits piled up. Billy resigned in disgrace, facing charges of misconduct and perjury. The empire she'd built, both HOA and business, crumbled overnight. And me, I sat in that crowded clubhouse watching her stripped of power by the very neighbors she once ruled over, and felt the strangest thing. Not joy, not triumph, just a cold, quiet relief. Because in that moment I knew bullies can build empires, but when the truth finally hits daylight, they all come crashing down. Lesson: power built on lies will always collapse when someone dares to fight back.